Mr. McClure, are you ready to start?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I am.
All right, thank you, sir. Freya, are you ready?
Ready.
All right. Good morning. This is 8:30. I don't remember what day it is, and we are continuing the Pride Cotera contested case. I believe it's the 28th today. And we left off where Pride was presenting one of its witnesses, the last of its four witnesses, Mr. Kent Weinkoff, and Ms. Shaheen asked for some more time to review some late filed rebuttal exhibits and other information. Ms. Shaheen, have you had the time?
Yes.
All right, excellent. We also were discussing post-hearing submissions schedule, and we'll get to that after the evidentiary part of this hearing is finished, but we didn't quite conclude that matter. Okay, so Mr. Weinkoff, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Mr. Examiner.
All right. Please remember that you are still under oath. Yes?
Sir.
Would technical examiner McClure want to finish his cross before?
I don't know. I thought he was.
I thought he had homework for Mr. Weinkoff.
He did. So let's pick up on that. I'm glad you reminded me on Mr. Weinkoff's homework. Well, let me just ask you, did he submit anything to you?
Mr. Weinkoff?
Yes.
Anything written?
Anything that Mr. McClure asked for yesterday, did he submit it to you?
No, he
Okay.
just said he's prepared.
Verbal. I think it was
Yes.
verbally that he was
Yes.
going to address the situation. So, Mr. Weinkoff, are you prepared for continuation of Mr. McClure?
I am.
Okay. And were you able to gather that additional information?
I was.
Okay, great. Mr. McClure, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Mr. Weinkoff, regarding approximate, just in terms of approximate magnitude of permeability for the Bone Spring 3 and the Wolf Camp and the Upper Wolf Camp in this area, what are they?
So for permeability, for the Third Bone Spring sand and the Upper Wolf Camp sands, it's about 0.01 millidarcy to about 1 millidarcy would be the estimate we would give for both of those horizons.
Okay, thank you, sir. And if I recall correctly, that seems like that's in the same ballpark that was provided in the original cases associated in this area. So that sounds familiar to me. Regarding that laydown well or slant well, I guess, in the north half of section 6, approximately when was that well completed?
It was looking up the date. It came online on the 6th June of 2013.
And you would consider it to be a vintage completion, I think you were referring to them as. Is that correct?
That's correct. They pumped about 300 pounds per foot of proppant and about 8 barrels a foot of fluid, compared to the 2,600 pounds and 55 barrel a foot that we're showing or recommending on Showbiz.
And what horizon was that well completed in?
Third Bone Spring.
Approximately how far above the top of the wolf camp was it?
I need to go look at that or defer to my geologist on that. But to date, it accumulated 74,000 barrels of oil. I believe that was another question you had asked on that.
Yes, that was going to be my next question. It only accumulated approximately 74,000 barrels of oil. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Weinkoff. I have no further questions for this expert witness, Mr. Examiner.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McClure. Ms. Shaheen. Is your microphone on?
Good morning, Mr. Weinkoff.
Morning.
I'd like to walk through some of your exhibits with you, starting with Exhibit C1.
Okay.
And if Mr. Zimsky could share. So I was a little bit confused by this. I wanted you to explain it to me. My math's not so great. Here you've represented that Coterra has spudded 18 wells and completed 24 wells. Were those wells that you completed part of the wells that you spudded?
Some of them are correct.
Okay, so the total of 42 is not exactly accurate, is it?
That's an incorrect statement that you just made. The title of that column says wells spudded or completed. It doesn't specifically determine that they're separate wells. It just says the amount of wells that have been spudded or completed.
So of the wells that Coterra says they've completed, how many of those also are included in the column that says spudded?
I'd have to get the exact number, but it would be 18 or less. I don't have the exact number on me.
But it could be 18.
That's correct.
So the total number could actually be 24 if you thought of it as wells spudded and completed. Is that right?
That's not what I'm showing here.
If you were to add the wells that were spudded and completed, that would be approximately 24. Is that correct?
Yes, if some of the wells could be spudded on the back half of 2024. So we'd have to go look at the timestamp that we want to represent. My
But you
math
don't
is
know.
for, I'd
sorry,
have to look up. Sorry. Do you want me to answer?
I do, and I apologize for talking over you. I apologize to you and the court reporter.
Okay. Yeah. So what we're showing here is just from Q1 to Q3. So it's just capturing those specific categories for that period of time. If you would like to know what wells were spudded and completed, I'd have to provide a follow-up exhibit for those exact numbers that were this tied to the same well.
Okay. And did you prepare this exhibit?
I did.
And what did you do to prepare it?
I looked through our data and looked at the wells that we have recorded that Coterra has spudded and completed in that time range.
Similar questions with respect to the second representation, 2025 New Mexico activity. You have here that 74 wells were spudded. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And of those, and then 49 wells completed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And how many of those wells completed are also included in the wells spudded?
It's the same response that I gave to the table above. The only difference is that this is looking at Lee and Eddy counties holistically, and the top table is looking at a northern specific area. But it'd be the same comment that I'd have to go look up what percentage of the wells were spudded and completed within that time frame. Still quite large numbers relative to what we're talking about with what Pride has done today.
And today, as we sit here today, if you were to include a column that said wells that were spudded and completed, that would be 49. Is that correct?
No, that wouldn't be correct. That's a speculation. I'd have to do the math on what it would be.
So you don't know how many wells were spudded and completed, do you?
I'd answered that. I have to go look up to calculate the exact number if you wanted to know wells that have been spudded and completed within that time frame. As I stated, I would need to go look that up from our data.
Okay, so the answer to my question is no, you don't know how many wells were spudded and completed. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe I answered that twice already.
I'd never heard a no. And when I ask a question that can result in a question and an answer that's yes or no, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Moving along to C2. Did you create this exhibit?
Yes,
And what did you do to create it?
I utilized an estimate of what we think the productivity is going to be of the wells that we're proposing, working with our operations team to derive the cost that we believe these wells will cost to develop. We've presented that, and then what the ultimate economics will be of the wells.
In your cartoon over here on the right, I wasn't quite sure I understood that. You have indications, icons, the circles, the red circles that are empty as proposed. I'm assuming those are the Showbiz 101, 201, and 301. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then what are the shaded in icons that are to the right of those?
If you see the legend below the cartoon, it denotes that as producing wells. Those would be the Ghost State wells, and the Third Bone Spring on the right would be the Super Cobra well.
So all of these shaded ones in the middle are the Ghost State wells?
No, the shaded ones are just specifying that those are existing producing wells.
So which ones are the Ghost State wells?
Those would be the middle wells. There's first, second, third bone developed across the two middle slots. I believe there's also a wine rack that was shown in another exhibit to highlight which wells were Ghost State wells.
And what's the purpose of this cartoon? To show that you're drilling in the same interval as existing wells?
The purpose of the cartoon is to show what Coterra's development plan is and what the economics and oil recoveries would be of that plan.
And what's the purpose of the shaded icons?
As I mentioned just a moment ago, it's highlighting what are the producing wells that are existing.
Turning to your exhibit C3. Did you prepare this exhibit?
I did.
And in the third column, the total cost for each well, does that reflect the amount that's on each of the AFEs?
Yes, these are showing our updated AFE costs, and I believe you can see the Showbiz 301 that's also included in the land exhibit section showing the $10.9 million cost.
And each of those AFEs includes their respective share of the shared facilities. Is that correct?
That's correct. It shows all the costs that these wells would observe.
And correct me if I'm wrong, did you testify yesterday that the cost of the total cost of drilling the two wells, if you did not drill the third well, would be $600,000 less? Or the total cost? I think I got that wrong. Let me withdraw that last question. Was your testimony yesterday that the total cost of 32.4 million would be 600,000 less?
What I testified to yesterday was that if you were to develop two wells instead of three, the cost for the two wells that you would develop would go up by an estimated 1.1 million. And I believe that's highlighted on a different exhibit if you would like to go to that exhibit.
Let me ask you this. Is the AFE for the 101H the same regardless of whether you drill the 301H?
No, the cost would go up if we weren't able to drill all three wells together.
Have you done the math to see what the difference is in cost if if Coterra drills the 101 and the 201 and Pride drills the, its proposed well?
If you go to C4, this slide does the math that you're asking for. Would you like to navigate to that slide?
Okay, so my question is, have you done the math? Have you added what it would cost to drill if Coterra drilled its 2 wells and Pride drilled its well?
Yes, as I just said, if you go to Exhibit C4, I show the math that I have done.
Mr. Zimsky, can you bring up that C4 exhibit? Okay, thank you.
I believe this is what you're asking, and this walks through the math of the additional costs that would be incurred by the first and second Bone Spring wells. These are working interest holders that would also be working interest holders in the Wolfbone well that we're currently discussing here today. So these would be costs that those working interest owners would endure more costs for those 2 wells.
Right, but that wasn't my question. My question is, have you added the cost of drilling the 101, the 201, and Coterra drilling its well?
I guess I'm having a hard time following you. I've said yes, that we've done the math. This slide showcases by what magnitude the cost would go up. Can you word your question differently if I'm not understanding it correctly?
Sure. Can you tell me the total cost to the working interest owners if Pride drills its first and second Bone Spring well and Coterra drills its Wolfcamp well?
So you would take this $1.107 million number here, and you would add it to the total cost that's shown on C3 for those respective wells, and that would be the estimated total cost increase if we were to only drill those wells. Would you like me to do the math?
Well, I don't see on either of these exhibits the cost of drilling Pride's well.
I'm sorry. The point of this slide, and if I understand your question, was what would the cost increase be for Coterra's first and second Bone Spring well if Pride was to develop the third Bone Spring well? I can only answer to what that cost would be for Coterra's wells. Would you like me to do that math?
No, that wasn't my question. My question is, what is the total cost for all 3 wells if Coterra drills its first Bone Spring and second Bone Spring and Pride drills its proposed well?
Yeah, it's not highlighted here, but we can do the math between both of our exhibits. Would you like to do that math?
You haven't done it previously.
I believe neither party has done that previously. I haven't seen any testimony, exhibits, or written statements that have done that math from either side.
I'll ask the question one more time. You haven't done that, have you? And it's a yes or no question.
No, I have not done that, and I also
Thank you.
qualified my answer a minute ago.
So do you want an answer to that question?
Yeah,
Because after you're done with your questions machine, he can do the math. He can come back and advise us before we close the hearing. Is that what you'd like?
My question was, had he done the math?
I got that, but the question before that is, what's the cost? And we don't have an answer to that. Does that still
Right.
matter to you?
I don't need for Mr. Weinkoff to answer the question. I can do the math.
Oh, okay, fine. I didn't understand that. It seemed like you still had a question.
No, I just wanted to know if he had done it.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. Turning now to your exhibit C6. Did you prepare this exhibit?
I did.
What did you do to prepare it?
I looked at modern offsetting developments around the showbiz development, and I derived the cumulative oil plot that you see on there for those specific projects, focusing on modern developments and trying to find well results that are close by that we could utilize to help determine what's the productivity differences between those horizons.
And what do you define as modern developments?
As I mentioned in my initial testimony, it's in this particular case, as with what I call a modern well, would be over 2,000 pounds of proppant per foot and over 40 pounds of fluid per foot would be considered modern, but the performance could vary if you had significantly more proppant or fluid pumped on a given well. But that would be what I classify as modern for this.
And how do you know whether there were 2,000 pounds of proppant per foot used to drill the well?
Operators are required to disclose what the frac volumes are. So in the cases of developments where we're not a participant in the well, we're utilizing public data, and that's the best we can do.
So is it your representation that all of the blue lines are modern developments of Bone Spring wells?
No, that's not correct. The blue wells on the map indicate what wells are landed in the Third Bone Spring. The red wells indicate what wells are landed in the Upper Wolfcamp. The boxes that are highlighting the projects offsetting the showbiz development, those are the wells that are closest, that are modern analogs.
So all of the blue lines are Third Bone Spring wells that you've determined are modern development wells. Is that correct? Yes
No,
or no?
that's not what I said, no.
What do the blue lines represent?
If you look on the bottom left of the map, it says that the blue lines are the Third Bone Spring. Those are wells that we believe to be landed in the Third Bone Spring. There's no other qualification outside of that they're Third Bone Spring landings.
Okay, so these are all of the Third Bone Spring wells that are in the area represented in your graph or in your map. Is that right?
Yes, the map is what we're showing, and those would be the landings of the wells for Third Bone Spring or Wolfcamp within that area we're showing.
Okay, right now I'm just talking about the blue lines. Those are only Third Bone Spring wells, correct?
That's correct.
And
Yeah. I've just been advised that the court reporter is having technical difficulties. He needs to restart. Should take about 2 minutes. So why don't you pause machine?
Oh, you know.
Okay, Ms. Shaheen, are you ready to continue? You mean,
Okay. Going back to Exhibit C6, with respect to the blue lines only, are these all of the third Bone Spring wells that exist within the area depicted in your map? Yes or no?
Yes.
And what interval did you use to determine that these were third Bone Spring wells? And let me rephrase that. What depths did you use to determine whether these were third Bone Spring wells?
Well, the depths change depending where you're at across the map because the reservoir isn't flat. There is a structural change across there. So giving a specific depth doesn't tell you whether it's in the Third Bone Springs. What we're utilizing is the top of the Third Bone Springs formation to the top of the Wolf Camp formation.
Okay, and did you make that determination?
My geologist helps make the determination on those landings.
And that is Ms. Fry?
That's correct.
So she decided whether these were third Bone Spring wells? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And did she also make that determination with respect to the Wolf Camp wells, that these wells were in the Wolf Camp A?
That's correct.
And with respect to the red lines, are these the only Wolf Camp A wells in the area depicted on your map?
Yes, based on Coterra's work, that is correct.
So just to be clear, there are no other wells drilled in the third Bone Spring anywhere on this map. Is that correct?
Based on the surveys that were available publicly and that what we had access to, that is correct.
And when you say survey, what do you mean by survey?
Operators are required to publish surveys that show the actual path that the well's drilled, so to speak, to keep it simple. And from there, we make determinations of where the wells are actually landed. So for example, Pride's Ghost State well doesn't have an actual survey on one of the wells. It's not a public record, so I'm not sure if Pride didn't file it or if there was an error with the governing body that handles that. So we do the best we can in lieu of missing surveys. So as I stated, to the best of our ability, this is our understanding of what are Third Bone Spring landings and what are Wolf Camp landings for the mapped area.
Are all of the Ghost State wells represented as a blue line and all of the third Bone Spring Ghost State wells represented as a blue line on this map?
That's correct. That's our understanding. That's a Third Bone Spring, and it sounds like that's Pride's understanding as well from their testimony.
Okay, so the only thing that may be missing from this map are wells for which no survey is publicly available. Is that right?
Yeah, potentially. We try to use other means to try to understand the landing if the survey's not, but I would defer you to Ms. Fry if you would like to dive down further on some of those alternative methodologies.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand, because I thought what you said. I thought you said that these were the third Bone Spring wells with publicly available surveys. Is that correct?
Yeah, my statement was that these are our understandings of the landings between Third Bone Spring and Upper Wolf camps, and we're trying to base that estimate on where the wells are actually landed. One of the key things to do that is utilizing survey data. There are other ways to make that determination, but I would defer you to Ms. Fry for more color on that.
Okay, I'm just trying to pin down what exactly we're looking at and how you came up with what we're looking at. So, if I understand correctly, you don't know because Ms. Fry put this together. Is that correct?
Well, what I said is Ms. Fry can elaborate on more color on if we don't have survey data to be able to land the wells. I actually did provide you an answer stating that we utilize survey data to guide what we think the landings are. In lieu of that, there are alternative methodologies that you can ask Ms. Fry that question. I'm a part of making that determination, but Ms. Fry looks at that more in depth. And so any of those more detailed questions that you would like to ask, I would ask Ms. Fry.
Okay, so you don't know whether you've shown all of the Bone Spring wells that exist in this area depicted on the map. Isn't that right?
That's not
Yes
what
or
I
no?
said. No, that's not what I said.
Okay, well, let me ask that question then. Does this map show all of the third Bone Spring wells that are within the area depicted on the map?
Based on Coterra's understanding of the data available to them, yes, this is our understanding of the Third Bone Spring wells in the mapped area.
Same question with respect to the wolf camp, and I just need a yes or a no answer. Does
It's the
this
same.
map,
Okay,
does this
sorry.
map show all of the wells drilled in the wolf camp A in this area depicted in the map?
Yes, based on the understanding of the
That's
data
a
available,
yes. That's all it is. I need. Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I think we've been sharing the original C6. So now we're going to show the amended C6.
And is this something that you have already submitted?
Yes.
You have submitted it.
Yeah, in the revised hearing packet.
This is the one that came in late. Yes, no,
The night.
2 days, the night before,
Yeah.
that Ms. Shaheen did not have a chance to look at.
Okay, we are now sharing the amended Exhibit C6.
And who amended it?
Who,
Which witness amended it?
Mr. Weinkoff.
Okay, good. Mr. Weinkoff, do you recognize this exhibit?
I do.
Did you prepare it?
I did, yes. I have
Okay.
sorry, I've got you guys on one screen and I've got our submitted packet that shows the amended one. So I was looking at that one. All my statements are based on the amended exhibit here.
Thank you for that clarification.
Turning now to the graph that you have on the left, modern offsetting analogs. Can you briefly tell me what modern offsetting analogs is?
Yes, as I mentioned a few moments ago, modern wells are those considered with completion designs greater than 2,000 pounds per foot of proppant and greater than 40 barrels per foot of frac fluid. And so what the plot highlights here are modern developments that fit that criteria that are nearby the showbiz development.
Okay, so does the blue line correlate to the third Bone Spring wells that you've identified as modern offsetting developments?
No, as I mentioned in my direct testimony, the plot line colors correlate to the legend on the top right of the plot. So the blue lines relate to the Thunderball Third Bone Spring development, and the blue lines correlate to the blue dashed line on the map.
So you did not include all of the Third Bone Spring wells in your graph, is that correct?
This graph only shows,
Yes or no?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's a yes or no question and I want a yes or no answer.
Can you repeat the question so I can give you a yes or no answer?
Yes. This graph does not include all of the Third Bone Spring wells that are on the map.
That's correct.
And this map does not include all of the modern all of the modern Third Bone Spring wells that are on the map. Is that correct? Yes or no?
That statement's incorrect.
I thought you just said that it only, well, the blue lines only relate to the Thunderball Third Bone Spring wells. Is that correct?
You're asking on the plot of the map? Because the question you just asked, I thought you said on the map, not the plot. So those are two
Well-
different visuals on the slide. So can you help me elaborate? Are you talking about the plot or are you talking about the blue lines on the map?
I'm talking about the blue lines on the plot.
Hmm.
So let me ask the question again. The blue lines on the plot only relate to the Thunderball Third Bone Spring wells. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The blue lines on the plot do not include any other Third Bone Spring modern development that is depicted on the map. Is that right?
That's correct.
And the green lines only represent the Malin wells. Is that correct?
The green lines on the plot only represent the Malin wells. That's correct.
So if you look at section 11 there, right in the smack dab in the middle of the map, there are 4 Bone Spring wells. Do you see those?
I do.
Those are not represented in the graph, in the plot. Is that right?
They are not modern.
And they're not modern because they use less than 2,000 pounds of proppant per foot. Is that correct?
That's correct. Significantly less.
And when were they drilled?
I believe somewhere between 2012 and 2014, but I would have to look that up to be precise.
Is there a difference in the amount of proppant that's used depending on the length of the lateral?
Typically, an
Yes or no?
operator.
Yes or no?
Can you clarify your question? Are you asking if someone pumps the same frac design across the whole lateral, or are you asking whether someone will pump a different design based on whether it's a 1 mile or 2 mile well?
I'm asking whether the amount of proppant used per foot differs depending on the length of the lateral.
No, that's a different decision.
Can you identify on the map other Third Bone Spring wells that are modern wells, modern developments?
For some examples, I can. They're further away from the showbiz, which is why they weren't highlighted on the map.
Can you tell us which wells those are?
Yeah, the ones that I know, I'll walk through those. So in sections 4 and 9, I don't know if somebody wants to move their cursor over that to make sure we're looking at the same development. So sections 4 and 9 on the map. That's not section 4 and 9. Yeah, so sections 4 and 9, yes, those would be the cowbells. Those are farther away from the showbiz unit. Directly south of there in sections 21 and 28, there's a 2 mile well and then a 1 mile well in section 21. Those are the Muscalero Ridge wells. South in section 26, just south of the Thunderballs, Those would be the Espejos, I believe that's what, yeah, those are the Espejo wells, drilled, I believe, by XTO, if memory serves me correct. On the north side of the map in sections 24 and 25, those look like the satellite development. On the east side there in red, sections 32 and 5, that would be the Foxtrot development. In sections 33 and 4, that would be the Alpha State development. Below that, in sections 8 and 17, the red wells on the east side, those would be the, I believe they're the Rambo wells. I need to confirm the name. We look at that as the Rambo unit, and the wells in 9 and 16 to the east of that, that would be the Cable unit. I need to confirm the exact name of that, but those would be modern developments. And then let's see. There are some other modern developments, I believe, in sections 20, 29, 21, 28. There's the Herefords or Charleys. I can't remember the exact landing. They changed the name up there. I think those are the Herefords. I believe those are modern, but would need to confirm from my data sources. Those are the ones that I can recall off the top of my head.
Could you ballpark the number of those wells that you just went through?
I'd have to count them. Would you like me to count them?
Let's just ballpark it. Are there more than 10?
I'm sorry. I can't give you a reliable answer on a ballpark. I can count them for you. They're physically on the map. Would you like me to count them to give you an exact number?
No, I would like for you to ballpark them for me. You just mentioned, I would say, almost 10 development areas, did you not?
Objection. I'm objecting. He can count it. Why does she want
Ms.
to?
Shaheen, I sustain the objection. Let him count it.
Okay, you can count it.
Okay, so on the developments that I just listed out that were in addition to the ones already marked on the map, I believe there are 26 on my quick count that were part of ones that I named and remembered.
Thank you. So there are 26 modern development wells that are not included in your plot. Is that correct? Yes or no?
That's correct.
With respect to the Wolfcamp wells, if I understand your plot correctly, the only Wolfcamp wells that are represented in the plot are the Beefalo wells. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And those are identified on the map with the purple dashed line. Is that right?
That's correct.
And how many of the Wolfcamp A wells that have been identified are modern developments?
Would you like me to count that based on what I just described or just what walked through with you? Just like the number I gave you was for Third Bone and Wolfcamp. Do you want me to separate out what are just the Wolfcamp of that number?
Sure. Well, I was a little confused because now I'm a little confused because I had asked you about Bone Spring wells before. Are you telling me now that the 26 number that you gave me also includes the Wolfcamp, or is that just the Bone Spring?
We'd have to have the court reporter report back. I thought you asked me which developments are modern. I didn't hear the Third Bone Spring qualifier in your question.
Okay, so you're saying that the total 26 that you gave me included both the Wolfcamp and the Third Bone Spring?
Yes, on the developments that I can recall.
Okay, so can you tell me now how many are Wolfcamp modern developments and how many are Bone Spring modern developments?
Yes, point of clarification, would you like me to include the ones that I have highlighted as modern developments in my boxes, or do you want me to exclude those from my count?
I want to exclude those. I want to know how many are not represented on your plot.
Okay, so I will give you the count for the Third Bone Spring first. I believe there's 11 that would be considered modern wells of Third Bone Spring. As far as the Wolfcamp goes, 16. 16 or 15. I guess my number, doing quick counts, is 26 or 27 total, 11 Third Bone Springs, and then 17, I think it is, or sorry, 16 on the Wolfcamp.
So you've omitted 16 modern Wolfcamp wells from your plot on the left. Is that correct?
Yes, based on the criteria.
And you've omitted 11 Third Bone Spring modern developments from your plot on the left. Is that correct?
That's correct, based on the criteria.
Now, you provided a list of wells with this exhibit. Or, well, did you provide a list of wells with this exhibit?
I provided yes, I provided a list of wells that showed what's been highlighted on the map.
And is there any way to correlate those wells to the map?
They're labeled as the boxes. So in Exhibit C7, there's a reference well list. That well list is describing the wells that are for the Ghost State, the Thunderball, the Beefalo, and the Malin projects, which have been highlighted on the plot and then are boxed on the map so that you can identify which of the projects that those wells go to. The names are named accordingly to the project name. So yes, you should be able to do that.
Okay, but that only relates to the wells that you've selected and included in your plot. Is that right?
That's correct, that we're showing data on.
So we don't know without doing some research what all the other wells are that are represented on Exhibit C6, do we? Yes or no?
If you're not trusting what I'm saying, no.
I'd like to turn now to your rebuttal exhibits. Actually, going back to the C6 for a couple minutes here. Are you assuming that the geology in the east part of your map is the same as the geology in the acreage that is at issue today?
I'm not making any assumptions. In my direct testimony, I qualify that the reservoir quality is changing amongst all of these developments. We're just showing the closest examples of modern developments next to the showbiz because that's the best we can do.
Has Coterra reviewed the geology in the east and compared it to the geology in the area at issue today?
We have.
Did you do that work or did Ms. Fry do that work?
Ms. Fry did the geology work.
Did you review Ms. Fry's geology work?
I did.
And did you compare the geology in the east to the geology in the area at issue today?
Yes.
And what was could you describe the differences between the geology in the east and the geology at issue today?
Sure.
Your Honor, I would object if she could clarify what she means by the east versus, she's asking Mr. Weinkoff to make a comparison. So if she could define what she means by the east.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sheen.
In particular, let's look at the east where you've located or you have identified the Wolfcamp A wells. Have you compared that geology to the geology at issue today?
By at issue, you mean at the showbiz?
Yes.
Yes.
And can you describe the differences in the geology?
Yeah, so in sections 33.4, 32.5, going all the way south there where you see all those wells, in general for the Third Bone Spring, or well, I should say the Wolf Bone equivalent zone, the geology is worse there than say where the Beefalo is in 6 and 7. And the Far East stuff that you're referring to as the Red Wells and the Upper Wolf Camp, those are worse also than the Showbiz area, which is why those are excluded from the plot to try to do a fair comparison as we can for the Upper Wolf Camp versus Third Bone Spring Landing.
I'm sorry, could you say that last sentence one more time?
Yes. So I can't remember exactly how I worded it. The far eastern wells that we're referring to, the Upper Wolf Camp, those that are the tops are sections 32, 33, and then moving directly south. The rock quality or the storage that we believe is there for oil and hydrocarbons is less than that of the Beefalo in section 6 and 7. And we believe that far eastern stuff, the red wells that you had highlighted, are also worse than the Showbiz well. That's why those are excluded from the plot, is we were trying to make it as fair of a comparison of modern data nearby the Showbiz. So we did not think it was fair to show those Wolfcamp wells east, that far east, because the reservoir is different. We tried to use the closest Wolfcamp well that we had available to make our decision on how have the landings performed.
And did you compare the geology in section 6 and 7 where the Beefalo is located to the geology that's at issue with the Showbiz and the Ghost State wells?
Yes, we have.
And what did you determine?
So when looking at the common source of supply, the Third Bone Spring looks really decent in 6 and 7. The Wolfcamp doesn't look as prospective in there. But it's Coterra's belief that you're going to tap the common source of supply of the Wolf Bone based on that Upper Wolfcamp landing or the Third Bone Spring. And so we believe that the rock quality is a little bit worse than what you would see at Showbiz. But the Third Bone Spring sand actually looks like it could be a little better. But we think those wells still might be tapping it.
So is it your testimony that the Bone Spring geology in the area of the Beefalo is better than it is in the area of the Showbiz?
You're asking if I say it's better at the Beefalo than the Showbiz?
Yes,
No. I'm sorry, Third Bone Spring or the Wolf Bone equivalent?
Third Bone Spring.
I'd
Well-
have to go look at the logs to be specific on it because there are height differences, and so the rock quality and the height need to both be taken into account. So the quality component's one thing, the height element's another thing. So I need to go look at that to give you a precise answer, or you can ask Ms. Fry that question, as she is our expert geologist.
Do you know what logs were used to evaluate the Beefalo?
No,
Geology?
I do not. You can ask Ms. Fry that.
Turning now to the rebuttal exhibits.
Which rebuttal exhibit?
There's C1, excuse me, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4, I believe.
I just wanted to know which one you wanted to deal with first.
Number 1.
Okay.
Is the map depicted here? Let me ask it this way. What is the difference between the map depicted here and the map depicted on your exhibit C6?
They are near similar maps. The screenshot taken might slightly be shifted, a few hundred feet left or right or up or down, but they're depicting the same well set.
And then the plot here, does it represent all of the Third Bone Spring wells that are on the map?
That's correct. The blue line on the plot represents all the Third Bone Springs that are shown on the map.
And the red line represents all of the Wolfcamp A wells that are shown on the map?
That's correct.
Turning to rebuttal exhibit 2. Here you've got First Bone Spring wells identified in red. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what First Bone Spring wells here have you selected to show?
So on the plot, is that your question?
No, on the map. How did you determine which First Bone Spring wells should be shown on this map?
A similar process to the others. We're looking at wells that are landed within the First Bone Spring interval.
And are these all of the wells that are located within the First Bone Spring interval in the area depicted on your map?
Yes, based on the data available in our understanding.
Turning to rebuttal exhibit 3. Does your map here depict all of the Second Bone Spring wells within the area depicted on the map?
Yes, based on our understanding and the data available.
And what is your understanding?
With regard to our understanding of where the wells are landed?
I'm not sure. I mean, I asked the question, is this all of the Second Bone Springs on the map depicted
And I
on,
said-
are all of the Second Bone Spring wells depicted on the map? And you said based on our understanding. So my question is, what is your understanding?
What's on the map is our understanding. These are the wells that we believe are landed in the Second Bone Springs based on the data available and our understanding of that data. This is our interpretation is the way to think about that.
And how did you determine that these are the Second Bone Spring wells located in this area?
By utilizing approaches like looking at the survey and determining where the wells are actually traversing through, what depths the wells are traversing through.
And did you do the research that was necessary to create rebuttal exhibit 1 and rebuttal exhibit 2? Excuse me, rebuttal exhibit 2 and rebuttal exhibit 3.
When you say research, can you elaborate on your question, what you mean by research?
Well, if I understand correctly, you guys looked for surveys. And so my question is, did you look for the surveys?
No, I did not look for the surveys.
Who looked for the surveys?
You would need to talk to Ms. Fry, as I stated earlier. She was the one that can elaborate on the landings of these wells.
Okay, so Ms. Fry determined that these are the only second Bone Spring wells in the area depicted on your map?
Yes, based on her understanding and data available, but you can ask Ms. Fry that question if you have any further detail you would like from that process.
And then on Exhibit 4, this is your referenced well list. If I understand correctly, this is a list of all the wells that are included in Exhibits 1 through 3. Is that correct?
That are that are shown on the plots. This is showing the wells that went into the data that's shown on the plots.
Okay, so we don't have any identification of the wells that are represented on the maps. Is that right?
You don't have all of them, just the ones that we are highlighting in our example and that are labeled on the maps.
You mean that are in the plot?
Well, if you go back to one of those exhibits, I'll show you what I mean. So on the plot, the color codes are tied to the well names. And if you look on the map, there's labels on the map that are color coded to that same color scheme as the plot. Those are the wells that are being called out on the plot, and those same wells are what's being referenced in the referenced well list. So on the map, we have called out which wells are being utilized. So that's what I mean. So yes, it's the ones on the plot, but some of the wells on the map have been called out that are tied to that reference well list.
And you've chosen those particular wells that are called out on the plot based on their proximity to the proposed development. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we don't have a list of wells other than those with a name here on exhibits 1, 2, and 3. Is that right?
That's correct. Any wells outside of what's shown on the plot and labeled on the map, you do not have that listed in the reference well list.
If I could have just a couple minutes to check with my client, I might be done with Mr. Weinkoff.
Okay. Mr. Zimsky, will you have redirect? Mr. McClure, did any of that cross-examination raise any redirect for you?
Yes, it did, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Okay, great. We'll go to Mr. Zimsky. Well, I think, Mr. Zimsky, do you care if I call Mr. McClure first? You would prefer it? Okay.
I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Weinkoff.
All right, thank you, Ms. Shaheen. Mr. McClure, I'm going to go to you next for any questions that might have arisen based on the cross-examination.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Mr. Weinkoff, if I were to ask you to provide a written supplemental exhibit detailing all criteria that was used for your exhibit C6, including completion, geology, reservoir, would you understand what I'm asking for?
I would, and I believe I do have that in my written testimony. Do we want to look at that paragraph real quick just to make sure that covers the basis of what you would like?
Yeah, can we bring that up, Mr. Zimsky?
We're getting there.
It should, I believe it's paragraph 15 within my written statement. This paragraph talks about looking at the productivity of offsetting modern wells, and it defines the modern projects, the 2,000 pounds, the 40 barrel per foot that I mentioned. It tells that I've normalized this to 10,000 foot. And so that is the criteria, the proximity to the showbiz and the modern criteria described by those two. That would be the three criteria set forth to make those.
Now, Mr. Weinkoff, I was gonna say, I can't really see what's on the screen. It's way too blurry for me.
Yeah, it is.
What page is that, Mr. Zimsky? So I can bring it up on my own.
Page 81 of, page 83, including the first two page 83, or on the lower left, it's page 81. And our computer, it shows it crystal clear, and it's really fuzzy on the shared screen. I don't know why.
Probably some sort of bandwidth issue, but regardless, I have it on my screen here. Mr. Weinkoff, did you earlier in your testimony, under question by Ms. Shaheen, did you reference something about poor reservoir conditions making it, or lesser reservoir conditions making it not comparable to the proposed unit today?
Yes, Ms. Shaheen had asked about the eastern Wolfcamp wells on the far east side and how they compared to the Showbiz area. And I testified that reservoir was poorer, and that's why we didn't include those wells to try to do a fair comparison. I also commented that it looked like the total reservoir looks like a little bit poorer at the Beefalo, but that it was the closest modern Wolfcamp that we had in the area to try to draw some conclusion about the productivity from.
So was that criteria, the reservoir condition criteria, responsible for the exclusion of those wells?
To the far east, that's correct. So the proximity is trying to get us, the reservoir is changing gradationally as you move in different areas. And so by looking at the proximity, that acts as a proxy for reservoir quality. So we're trying to find examples really close together, which is why when you look at the Beefalo and the Ghost State, they're about 1.5 miles apart. So there's going to be a little bit of reservoir difference between that. But that's kind of the closest example within this area to highlight the differences in productivity from each landing.
Is reference to the criteria used to determine that the reservoir is poor quality and not a good fit, is that included in your paragraph 15 here?
It's not. It's just simply noting offsetting modern developments, but it doesn't specify that the far eastern wells have been excluded because of poor reservoir quality.
So if I were to ask for either a supplemental exhibit or amended self-affirmed statement that can include that additional criteria, do you understand what I'm asking for?
Yes, I do, and I can provide that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weinkoff. Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. That was all my questions for this expert witness.
Thank you. Mr. Zimsky, redirect.
Yes, Mr. Weinkoff, I want to go to exhibit C3, your exhibit C3, which is on lower left, page 86 of 156. And that exhibit and exhibit C4, the following exhibit, is there enough and going back to Ms. Sheehan's inquiry about the math, to do the math, is there enough information on these exhibits to be able to do the math?
Yes, between the exhibits that Coterra has provided and the exhibits that Pride has provided, we can do the math on what Coterra's 3-well development would look like on a total cost basis versus what the 2 Coterra wells with 1 Pride well drilled capital cost would look like. We can make that comparison based on the exhibits presented by both groups.
And then going to exhibit C6, these wells, these Wolfcamp wells that I have my cursor around, 32 and 5, 33 and 4. You testified why didn't you include those in the plot on the lower left?
The reservoir quality is poorer of those wells, so we're trying to become as most objective as we can, trying to determine the landing, what's the optimal landing. And so I didn't want to skew the Wolfcamp productivity by including wells that have worse reservoir. In that instance, I'm trying to find the examples of the landings as close as we can to the showbiz unit to make that determination. Coterra has the right and ability to drill, or I say the right and ability, but we own in the Upper Wolfcamp and the Third Bone Spring. And so our goal is to focus in on, since we have ownership in both of those, which ones can deliver the best productivity. So it's in our interest to look at it, try to look at it as objectively as we can and exclude wells that could skew that perspective.
And if you had plotted those on the plot, those plot lines would be below the dash line Wolf-Bone forecast. It would have actually let me break that up into a couple questions. If you had plotted those wells, the 32.5 and the 33.4 Wolfcamp wells on the plot, they would be below the Wolf-Bone, what is currently the Wolf-Bone forecast dotted black line, correct?
Yeah, they would fit lower on the plot. That's correct.
And if you had included those in your forecast, you would have pushed the Wolf-Bone forecast lower. Is that correct?
Well, the Wolfbone, well, as I mentioned in my direct testimony, the Wolfbone forecast is based on a recovery factor model of the showbiz development. The plot is simply showing our forecast next to modern development. So it wouldn't impact our line because we're utilizing a recovery factor model to describe it based on the analog set in that area. Are you asking if I included that in the building of my recovery factor model? Or are you just saying if you showed it on the plot, how would they fit?
If you include it in the forecast model.
If I included those wells in the forecast model, the recovery factors, I'd have to take a look at how they would be, but they would be lower. To the exact extent, I don't know until I can pull that data back out for my analysis, but that would drive the recovery factor model lower, indicating poorer recoveries of hydrocarbon.
Mr. Zimsky, before you continue, would you preface the questions from here on in to remind the audience what you are redirecting? So in other words, if Ms. Shaheen asked a question about something, please say, Ms. Shaheen asked you this question before, blah, blah, blah. So I know that this is truly redirect and not getting into new subject area.
Understood.
Thank you.
Let's go back to C3, C4. I asked you about the math. Do you recall that question? Ms. Shaheen had asked about the math. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
Can you do the math for us?
Sure. Yeah. So on C3, we have highlighted what the total cost would be if Coterra operated all three wells. That's $32.4 million. If Coterra were to only operate the First and Second Bone Spring and Pride were to operate their Wolfcamp well, if that is the decision, if you go to slide C4, it highlights what the added costs to the First and Second Bone developments would be based on the fact that that's a two-well development. So those costs would increase by $1.107 million. So if we add those costs to the First and Second Bone AFE costs shown on C3, and then taking those combined costs, which just for your note, 10.7 million plus 1.1 million is roughly 11.8 million for the first bone and roughly 11.9 million for the second bone spring. And if we add those two values to Pride's well cost of, can you pull up Pride's AFE costs? I believe it's like $9.3 million was their latest AFE cost. I don't know if you have that exhibit up.
Getting there.
Should be their 2025 AFE. That's their 2022 AFE.
27.
If you scroll down to the next page, they'll have a summation line. Oh, so 9.34 million. So if we were to only develop 2 of those wells, Pride were to develop the Wolfbone equivalent well, their cost is 9.34 million. Coterra's cost is 23.7 million roughly for their 2 wells. That would be about $33.1 million of total development costs versus Coterra's plan, which to totally develop those 3 horizons would be 32.4. So that plan would cost working interest owners in gross about $600,000 to $700,000 more. And again, that's not even factoring in that we have additional costs related to frac volume, related to contingency costs modeled in there, related to the emissions, tankless facility to reduce emissions. So we're cheaper in aggregate with that plan, even including all those other costs.
Oh, thank you. Now, Ms. Shaheen had asked you about various, in response to some of her questions, you indicated that you relied on your geologist, Stacy Fry, for landing zones and looking at surveys. Did she do that work under your direction and supervision?
She'd done that work with me. As you might imagine, reservoir engineers and geologists work together. She'd be the primary driver that would be working with me on making those determinations and reviewing that with me.
But when you were creating those exhibits, you asked her to find the landing zones, correct?
Correct.
No further questions.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Weinkauf, thank you very much. You're excused.
May I ask one follow-up question?
If it's related to one of the questions that Mr. Zimsky asked, then yes, you can ask yet another cross-examination question.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Weinkauf, Mr. Zimsky asked you to speculate on where if you plotted the wells that are in sections 32, 33, 4, and 5, if you plotted those wells, where they would be plotted. You haven't done the work to determine where those wells would land in the plot, have you?
Objection. I didn't ask him to speculate.
Okay, I don't know I don't remember whether you did or not. He's saying he didn't. Well,
I'll rephrase the question.
go ahead.
Mr. Zimsky asked you to consider the Wolfcamp wells in the sections 33, 34, 4, and 5, and to estimate where they would be on the plot. Do you recall that line of questioning?
Yes, he asked me where they would fall on the plot.
But you haven't done that work, have you actually? You haven't used that information in your recovery factor model. I don't recall the exact term you used for it. You haven't done that work, have you?
That's a different question than what he asked me. That's just part of a separate question he asked me. So are you asking about his question of have I looked at that data and where did it fall in the plot? Or are you asking me, did I include that data in my recovery factor model? You kind of blended two questions together there.
Okay, let me start over. Mr. Zemsky asked you about including the information relating to the wells in sections 33, 34, 4, and 5 in the plot in your exhibit C6, I believe. Do you recall that line of questioning?
I do.
And you have not previously included that information in your plot, have you?
I did not include it on the plot for reasons that I specified. Would you like me to re-specify those reasonings?
No.
Okay.
You haven't done the work yet to have incorporated those wells in your plot, have you? Yes or no?
I have done the work, yes.
But you haven't incorporated it in your plot.
I didn't include it on the plot that's presented in the exhibit for reasons that I specified, which I'm happy to re-elaborate if you would like.
With respect to the discussion about the recovery model, is that the correct term for it, a recovery model?
Recovery factor model or recovery model will work, yes.
Okay. Did you include that information from those wells in sections 33, 34, 4, and 5 in your recovery factor model? Yes or no?
I considered them, yes, but I excluded it ultimately.
Okay, so yes or no, did you include the information from those wells in your recovery factor model? Yes or
In my
no?
final clarification, in my final recovery factor model that was used to derive this forecast, did I include them?
Yes, in the whatever recovery factor model you use to create your plot, did you include the information related to the wells in sections 33, 34, 4, and 5, yes or no?
I excluded them in my final model.
So that's a yes. I'm sorry, that's a no. Let me ask it again, and if you could just tell me yes or no, it would be really helpful.
If I may present some information that might help you
Actually,
ask a
no,
question. Okay.
he's
I want to give you the
non-responsive.
answer. I want to give you the answer, but you're not allowing me to answer your question because you're trying to twist my testimony to fit something you're trying to ask, and I'm just trying to answer it honestly. So I'm trying to ask for clarifications so that I
Mr.
can answer
Weinkauf?
your question. Sorry.
Mr. Weinkauf, excuse me.
Sorry.
Ms. Shaheen, what's the question?
The question is, did you include information regarding production from the Wolfcamp wells located in sections 33, 34, 4, and 5 in your recovery factor model that you use to create the plot on exhibit C6? Yes or no?
No.
And okay, thank you. The answer was no.
Thank you. Those are all the questions I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Weinkauf, thank you for your testimony today.
Absolutely.
All right. All right, Mr. Zimsky, does that conclude your case in chief?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Ms. Shaheen, do you have some other rebuttal evidence?
I do. I have
Okay.
2 witnesses for rebuttal.
Okay, and is this the Sir rebuttal exhibit that you filed?
One is the rebuttal exhibit that I filed. We
Okay.
haven't yet filed it. Well, maybe we filed the Sir rebuttal exhibits. I'm not sure if my assistant.
When I say that, I mean, I got an email from Freya. I don't know how she got it, but I got it. Okay, so you have 2 witnesses, and how many documents do you have?
3.
3 documents. Mr. Zimsky, have you received 3 documents?
Yes.
You have. Okay, what documents have you received?
I received, last night we got 2 documents. Sir rebuttal, I believe it was exhibit 1. Sir rebuttal exhibit 2. And then I think Ms. Sheehan had provided me a hard copy of a list of costs. Is that the 3rd exhibit you're speaking about?
Yes, we provided that to you, I believe maybe Monday.
Yeah, Monday evening, yeah.
Okay, so when you say she gave you, you received it Monday. I just want to be
I
clear.
received the 3rd one Monday, the last
Yes.
2 she emailed last night.
I understand. So how are they labeled? Ms. Shaheen.
The one from Monday is labeled Rebuttal Exhibit C2.
I have to write this down. Hold on 1 minute. Now, none of these have been admitted into evidence. Is that correct?
The Rebuttal Exhibit C2, I believe, has been admitted
Okay,
into evidence.
very good. So let me go back to my exhibits here. Well, I only wrote down all Pride exhibits, so I didn't list them out here. So you're saying rebuttal number 1 was admitted yesterday through stipulation.
Yes, I believe it was labeled C2, Rebuttal Exhibit C2.
Oh, okay, okay. C2. Mr. Zimsky, do you confirm that?
Confirmed.
Good. So C2 was already admitted and you're going to discuss that today.
Yes.
And what are the 2 surrebuttal exhibits that you filed last night? How did you label them?
Sir Rebuttal Exhibit 1 and Sir Rebuttal Exhibit 2.
Just 1 and 2. Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Zimsky, you've looked at those?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Is there any objection to receiving them into evidence?
Yes.
Okay, both?
Just the exhibit, so rebuttal exhibit 1.
So you object to 1, but you do not object to 2.
Correct.
Okay, so surrebuttal 2 is admitted into evidence through stipulation, Mr. Court Reporter. Surrebuttal exhibit 1 is not, and we will need to provide foundation. I'll have to make a legal decision on whether that comes in after I hear arguments, once I know more about it, because I don't know anything about it yet. Okay, so now, Ms. Shaheen, which witness are you calling now?
I would like to call Harvin Broughton, our geologist, back.
Okay, hold on 1 moment. Okay, yes, he was the second witness yesterday. So you're going to recall Mr. Broughton, and then who else are you going to call?
Mr. Pride.
Mr. Pride. Okay, so you have, they both are still under oath. Okay, which one do you want to start with?
Mr. Broughton.
Mr. Broughton. Now, which of these exhibits are you going to be discussing with Mr. Broughton?
The Sir Rebuttal Exhibit 2.
Only number 2.
Only number 2.
Okay, not C2 and not rebuttal 1.
That is correct.
Perfect. Okay, do we have him? Yes, we do. Mr. Broughton, I remind you that you're still under oath. And I can't hear you because your microphone is muted.
Yes, I understand. I'm under oath.
Ms. Shaheen, go right ahead.
Excuse me,
Ms.
Mr.
Shaheen,
Herring.
hold on a minute. Mr. Zimke has an objection?
Not an objection.
No, what is it?
Just procedural.
Yes.
I have cross-examination questions for, based on this exhibit, but I may have to call Ms. Fry to
Okay.
possibly,
If
depending on.
necessary,
the
you'll explain
feedback.
why.
Yes.
You'll tell me why, this is a surprise to you and why you need Ms. Fry and why it wasn't included in your direct. Okay, Ms. Shaheen, go right ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Broughton.
Good morning.
Can you see my screen?
I can, yes.
You heard Mr. Weinkauf's discussion earlier about his Exhibit C6
I did, yes.
and the geology. And can you explain to the examiners what this exhibit reveals?
Okay, so this is an area map, and I've highlighted as Upper Wolfcamp wells, the wells that were shown on their Exhibit C6 to be Upper Wolfcamp wells, landed in the Upper Wolfcamp. So I've created a cross section A to A prime, south to north, that you can see from the southeast corner of section 13, which is the Super Cobra well that was involved in my testimony yesterday. That's the well from which the Wolfbone pool was described. And then another well up in section 31, the southern part of section 31, and that is the southeast airstrip number 1 well, a Matador production well, vertical well, deep vertical well. This is just an aerial map laying all that out, where the proximity of the wells to the Ghost State planned area, the cross section, and then the Wolfcamp wells that were discussed as part of the analysis by their engineer.
Oh, and And this, what is the relationship distance-wise between the A prime and the, I believe it's the Beefalo wells that are located in sections 6 and 7? What is the relative proximity of your A prime log to the Beefalo wells?
Probably a mile, roughly a mile.
If you take a look at Exhibit C6, and I can show that if necessary, or if Mr. Zemsky could share that, I'll quit sharing.
Okay,
Just want to,
I'm looking at it on my desk, but you're talking about the Coterra Exhibit C6, the modified one or revised one?
right, the corrected.
Yes.
And I believe there's a purple dashed line around the Beefalo wells just below section 31.
Yes, I see it.
And I'm just waiting to see if maybe we can share on the screen. Can you make it a little bigger? Thank you. So can you see the purple dashed line there around section 6 and 7?
Yes, I see it.
And in relation to section 6 there, where is the A prime log that you're going to discuss located?
It's right at the toe end of those wells. So it's right at the southern part of section 31. You'll notice there's 4 wells there in section 31. The second from the left, the first blue coated well, it's right at the surface location of that particular well.
Turning now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Very close to that.
Turning now back to our Sir Rebuttal Exhibit 2.
Okay.
And I will share again. And scrolling now to the second page.
Okay.
Can you describe to the examiners what's evident here?
Okay, so this is a south to north stratigraphic cross section that I created, showing, and I've tied it to the Super Cobra well, which is the well on the left. That's the pool defining, the Wolfbone pool defining well, and then this southeast airstrip well, which is the well on the right, which is the A prime, and it shows raster logs. Resistivity and neutron or porosity logs on the left and on the right. You can see the top of the third bone spring is shown there in black. The wolf camp on which the cross section is flattened is shown as the red squiggly line. Then I've gone on to show a couple of features that I thought were pertinent to what we're talking about here. So on the left in the Super Cobra well, which would be nearest in proximity to the Ghost State well, you've got a really quite well developed upper Bone Spring sand packages. So there's actually 3 sands in that interval. If you'll move directly over to the right in the airstrip well, you'll notice that there's only one of those sands developed there, and I've got that flagged with a yellow bar. Also of note, just above that sand is a rather thick, tight limestone. And so a tight limestone would be a barrier or at least a baffle to the frac job. So I think my point here is that the wolf camp wells up in this area, and I do agree that they should have been left out of the model. I do agree that they're poor reservoir quality. But you will notice that the third Bone Spring sand is quite a bit thicker at that particular point. So my contention here is that the wells landed in the upper Wolfcamp are really only Wolfcamp wells. They're not Wolf Bone wells. The interaction here with that thick, tight limestone, the interaction between the two formations would be quite different than it would be over at the Ghost State location, where you really have no frac baffle or boundary, but at least an apparent frac baffle or boundary over there. So for this area, this northeast area, I think those wells would more than likely be Wolf Camp wells and not Wolf Bone wells, where what we're trying to develop is the Wolf Bone. So I think, when you frack an upper Wolfcamp well in the area of the airstrip well, that frack is going to pretty well stay contained within the upper Wolfcamp, and you're going to get little to possibly even no third Bone Spring contribution. Whereas over in the Ghost State area, you really want to complete both. You're attempting to complete them both together, and then that goes back to how best that we think that should be done. Our contention is that if you want to complete both of them together, the lower you land, the better off you are. Every completion engineer I've ever worked with has always encouraged the lowest landing that makes, that's possible and makes sense. So, we're kind of back to that argument, really, I think, is that, is it better landing in the Wolfcamp if you want to complete the Wolfcamp and the upper and the third Bone Spring, or take the chance of landing in the third Bone Spring and relying on downward fracture growth, which, I guess we can argue all day long about, but many think that that's not as efficient. So that's kind of the summary of that slide.
In lay terms, would you say that the geology in the area in the east, including the area near the Beefalo wells, is significantly different from the geology at the where the parties have proposed their showbiz and Ghost State wells?
It is different, and just based on these two well logs, you can see that the third Bone Spring on the east is much thicker, considerably thicker, and the Wolfcamp is considerably less developed. In addition to having a carbonate barrier, baffle, whatever you want to call it, right at the top of the Wolfcamp. So yeah, there's not surprisingly, the geology as you move laterally changes sometimes fairly rapidly, and I think that's what the case is here.
Thank you, Mr. Broughton. I have no further questions at this time.
Mr. Zimsky?
Yes, Mr. Broughton, William Zimsky on behalf of Katerra, I have a few questions.
Okay.
In looking at the slide that's here, the tight limestone, how thick is that?
Right at 50 feet.
In your experience, would that limestone impede fractures growing up into the third sand?
Well, again, I don't design frac jobs, but I've worked with a lot of completion engineers that, in the design of frac jobs. And I think a 50-foot thick, tight limestone would fall at least as a baffle, if not a barrier. It's certainly going to take some of the frac energy to get through that, if it does in fact get through it. So again, I would say that it would be much easier to frack into the third Bone Spring at the Ghost State site, because there doesn't exist a barrier like that. So I can't tell you that it's a completely sealing barrier and there's no way the frac would get through it, but I would say it would at least in my experience be considered a baffle and eat up the frac energy. And so the wells in this area would probably not be, even if they did get into the third Bone Spring, they probably didn't do it very efficiently.
But you're not a reservoir engineer, correct?
I'm not a reservoir engineer or a completion engineer or a geomechanics expert.
And you don't design frac plans for,
No.
And going back to, I think you testified that you basically agree with Mr. Weinkauf's decision not to include those eastern Wolfcamp wells in his plot on C6?
Yeah, I think that would be fair because of the quality of the reservoir is poor there. The quality of the Wolfcamp reservoir there is poor.
Is the airstrip log representative of the whole Beefalo lateral?
Well, it's the nearest deep well that I could find, so I would have to say yes. That's all you have.
Well, okay, my question was, so in other words, you don't know whether it does, you're just assuming that it does since it's close.
Right. I mean, right. It's just proximity. I mean, you find the nearest thing that you can work with, and that's the data you have to work with. So,
And did you look at any other logs?
I looked at one other, but the log on it was extremely poor and illegible, so it was not of any use to any of us.
Assuming the quality of given the quality of that log that you looked at, were you able to determine whether what log was that?
I'd have to go find it again. It was another deep well. It was another 13,000 footish well, up in the area. I'd have to go find them. And I excluded, it was illegible because it was an older log. So I just didn't, you couldn't read it. So it was kind of useless. I couldn't make any assessment off of it in, either direction. So.
In that log, were you able, given its quality, to determine whether there were tight limestones separating Wolfcamp and third sand?
No, like it was not, it was illegible. I mean, I realize these raster logs are kind of hard to work with anyway sometimes, and it was just not a very good scan. It wasn't a good. It was illegible in my opinion.
We're happy to provide you with the name of the well, if that would be helpful, Mr. Zemsky.
Yes, if you could, that would be helpful.
Okay, I'll have to go find it, but I'll get it.
Now, you testified that it makes sense to have a lower landing zone, and that's the impetus for, and correct me if I'm wrong in characterizing your testimony. I recall you saying that it makes sense to have the lowest landing zone that you can do, and that was the impetus for Pride deciding to land in the upper Wolfbone. Is that correct? Is that what you testified to?
Yes, I believe that's correct. Yes.
But you're aware that Pride didn't have the right to land in the third sand because it doesn't have any working interest ownership there, correct?
I understand that also, yes.
And you also understand when Pride did have the option of landing either in the third sand or the Wolfbone in the adjacent Ghost State development, Pride chose to land in the third Bone Spring sand, correct?
I'm going
Yes,
to
I believe
object. I think
that's
this
correct.
is outside the scope of my questioning.
Well,
Mr. Zinsky?
it goes to his testimony that it's always better to land in the lower interval, and that was the impetus for Pride to go to the Wolfbone or the upper Wolfbone landing zone. So
I don't believe I said it's always
Hold
best.
on.
Sorry.
We're having a discussion here, so please
Okay.
don't interrupt.
understand.
Thank you. Go ahead.
okay, so he said that the reason why Pride landed or is proposing to land in the upper Wolfcamp was because it's always, well, it can be better to land in the lower Wolfcamp than it's better to have a lower landing zone.
Okay, I remember the subject. Now,
Okay.
what is your question?
So my question is, given that, why did, not why, but isn't it a fact that when they had the option on the adjacent lands, they chose the third Bone Spring as opposed to the lower, when he just testified that's always the better option?
Okay, well, I don't know that he said it's always a better option, but I heard what he said. Miss Shaheen, you've heard the response, your response?
There was a Bone Spring development that Pride had done. They hadn't considered, this is in a different area. It's not the same location.
Well, I'm sorry, it sounds, I'm not sure I'm getting the answer I want.
Okay.
Your objection was outside the scope of his direct testimony. Mr. Zimsky just clarified why he thinks it's within the scope. Why do you disagree with what he just said?
Because the Ghost State wells that he's talking about that are Bone Spring wells are not the same acreage. They're different acreage.
They're right next door.
I understand, but when the witness testified earlier, I don't remember him qualifying his answer to say this only applies to this and not that. So I understand why Mr. Zimsky is asking him about the neighboring acreage, and his statement that he made to you applied to the neighboring acreage. So why is that outside the scope of his direct?
Well, I didn't understand Mr. Broughton's testimony to be discussing anything other than the proposed Ghost State 401H. He wasn't speaking to neighboring wells or neighboring acreage.
Let's ask the court reporter, hold on, let's ask the court reporter a question. Okay, can you go back to the question that Ms. Shaheen asked on direct that elicited the answer about landing wells in the deepest area? How did you phrase it, sir?
How did I phrase it?
No, I'm
Oh,
asking the witness. How did you phrase it earlier?
I guess I don't know what you're asking me.
Okay, let's see what the court reporter can dig up. Do you remember the question, Ms. Shaheen, since you did ask it? Do you have a list of your questions there that you asked?
No.
Oh, I don't know. Okay. I used to. Okay.
I have a list.
Okay.
That was not on my list. But basically, I was asking him to compare the geology at the location of the A strip well to the geology at the location of the proposed Ghost State well.
Okay. Let's see what the court reporter finds.
All right, one moment, please.
The witness was talking about landing wells in the, how did you phrase it? Landing wells in the deepest area? You said something like that?
Well, what I said was every completion engineer I've ever worked with, they prefer to land as deep as possible in the interval you're trying to complete, because
Okay,
the
thank
frac is
you.
predominantly going to grow up.
Okay,
So I
yes,
mean, that's
perfect.
I know that's anecdotal, but that's just the way it's
Okay.
been in my experience.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Look for the word deep or deepest.
Okay, I found it. Can you, what am I reading back?
The answering question.
Okay, so, the question was. He was asked to describe what's evident here, and Mr. Broughton said, every completion engineer I've ever worked with has always encouraged the lowest landing that makes, that's possible and makes sense. So, we're kind of back to that argument really. I think is that, is it better landing in the wolf camp if you want to complete the wolf camp and the upper and third bone spring, or take the chance of landing in the third bone spring and relying on downward fracture growth.
And what was the question that was asked by Machine? I didn't hear that.
It was just describing what was evident in Cerebellum 2.
That's the words she used?
The words were. Said, turning now back to our Cerebellum Exhibit 2, and I'll share again,
Mhm.
and scrolling now to the second page.
Mhm.
Can you describe to the examiners what's evident here?
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Shaheen, you were asking this expert witness for his opinion about what's going on in Cerebuttal 2. Okay, and Cerebuttal 2 encompasses what acreage? Are we
So
looking at-
rebuttal 2 encompasses the acreage. Well, with respect to the question here, it encompasses the acreage where the Super Cobra is located.
Okay, and that's on the screen right now? Are am I looking at it here?
Let's see.
I can't tell what I'm looking at.
The Super Cobra is located here in the southeast corner of section 13.
Okay, so I am looking at Cerebuttal 2. How many pages is Cerebuttal 2?
2
It's
pages.
2 pages. Is this the first page I'm looking at here?
Now this is the first page. Yes, this is a map of the locating the 2 logs that are on page 2. So this is the Super Cobra log and this is the airstrip log.
Okay, I'm not sure what I'm looking at here. Who's running the screen right now? Is it
I am.
you are?
Mhm.
Can you reduce this page
Sure.
so that it's one page? Keep going.
So this is the first page.
Okay, where is it marked,
A-
Cerebuttal? Where is it marked?
It's not marked yet.
You haven't marked it.
No.
Okay, so this is the entire Cerebuttal 2 is 2 pages and this is the first page?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Can I see the bottom page?
Yes.
Mr. Broughton, did you draft Cerebuttal 2?
I created these 2 slides, yes.
You did create them. Okay, very good.
Yes.
Explain to me the relationship between page 1 and page 2.
Okay, page 1 is just an aerial map, and it's just to show everybody where we are. It's a proximity map. So you can see the upper Wolf Camp wells up in the upper right-hand
Can
corner.
I see the page?
Yeah,
Hold on.
okay.
Okay, okay, go ahead now.
So the red lines are the upper Wolfcamp wells, and I got those from the Coterra Exhibit C6. So those are the wells that they had referenced as upper Wolfcamp that
Okay.
they were going to evaluate and ultimately chose to exclude from their type curve analysis.
Okay, I understand now. Okay.
So the red box 12 and 13, that's
Yes.
the acreage that we're talking about, west half of 12 and 13. So that's the proposed location of the Ghost State 401H.
Okay.
And then,
And before you, hold on, before you continue,
okay,
the reason, so you're taking issue with their excluding these upper Wolf Camp wells?
no, not at all. I agree with their exclusion of them
Oh, then why are
for
you showing
geological
them?
reasons, right?
Why are you showing them on this map in red?
Just as a reference point.
Okay, what is the purpose of Sir Rebuttal 2 in your own words?
It's to show how the geology is changing across that area. So from the A prime log that you see, there's an A prime in the south part of section 31,
I see.
down to A, which is
see.
the Super Cobra log,
I
which is
see.
the log that was used to define the Wolfbone Pool in the previous order.
I understand now. Now, page 2, what is the purpose of page 2?
Okay, so that's showing the two well logs, A and
Yes.
A prime, and that's how a geologist or an engineer
I see.
determines thickness and reservoir properties and
I understand.
relationships. So this is the data that a geologist would use to evaluate a drilling opportunity.
Perfect. Can we go back up to the map, Ms. Shaheen, please? Now, Mr. Zimsky, the question you're asking, what lands does it relate to?
The Bone Spring development, the Ghost State development, which I think is in section 13, east of the Super Cobra A designation. So it's right next
this map,
door.
excuse me, this map is dealing with Upper Wolfcamp wells, right?
Well, the map shows some Upper Wolfcamp wells. What's not shown, I think, is the Beefalo, which is 6 and
Mr.
7.
Zimsky, just answer it, please. It's
Okay.
already confusing, and I'm
Okay.
trying to make a proper ruling here.
Okay.
This map and these 2 pages sound to me like they're dealing with drilling in the Upper Wolfcamp formation.
I believe they're meant to show something about the Wolfbone Pool, third sand, because in the log showed third sand in Upper Wolfcamp, I believe. That's more of a question for Mr.
Okay.
Broughton.
And your question is related to section 13, just east of the red box.
Just west of the red box, east of the red box.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought. So just east of the red.
East of the red box, but I believe it's section 12, not section 13.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm asking, okay. Thank you, Machine. So your question goes to the lands in section 12, just east of the red box?
Yes, and if it would have been nice to have the Ghost State wells depicted on this map.
But here they are. I mean, this is what we have to work with. So your question is in a different formation?
It's the Wolfbone Pool, both the third Bone Spring sand interval and the upper Wolfcamp interval.
Okay.
And-
And Ms. Shaheen, why is that outside the scope?
I would just note for the record that there is no Wolfbone Pool outside of the proposed spacing unit.
I don't see how that helps me. I'm trying to make a determination on whether this question is within the scope of your direct, and I don't see how that helps me. So now that I'm beginning to understand the question, and the question is related to what, analysis of the lands east of the red box?
Yes.
What is the question now? Tell me.
Well, the question is, and it goes to what he testified, that generally speaking, reservoir engineers or people designing fracs will always land in the lowest, not always, but generally speaking, they will land in the lower.
Okay.
So I'm applying, And so I think he opened the door for this question. You know, if I had a nickel for every time one of my witnesses opened the door to a question, I wouldn't be here. I'd be skiing in Bell or doing something.
Mhm.
So I think he opened the door for me to ask my question,
Which is what?
which is, since Pride had the opportunity to land, they had the right in the existing show bit or Ghost State wells to land, have a lower landing. They chose the third Bone Spring sand instead of the upper Wolf Camp. So it's the question goes to, in response to his testimony, that generally speaking, you go for the lower.
So you're asking
Interval.
about a different development
Uh,
that Pride has conducted east of this red box?
correct.
How is that relevant to today's hearing?
Well, it's relevant because they're claiming the upper Wolf Camp is the preferable landing zone.
Right.
When they didn't have the option of landing in the third Bone Spring in this case, because they don't own in the
Okay.
third Bone Spring.
Okay.
When they had the ability and authority to land deeper in the adjacent
Yes.
lands, they chose the third Bone Spring sand.
I understand.
And that sort of contradicts.
I understand. I understand. Thank you, Mrs. Zemsky. Ms. Shaheen, while I'm not sure how relevant the question is, and I think it's barely relevant, and the hearing examiner, the technical examiner will put the weight they feel it deserves. Now that we've had this long discussion about this, but based on the answer that this expert gave to your question, I think it's fair game to ask why they didn't do that in this other area right next door. So I'm going to overrule the objection, and that was the longest I have ever had to suffer over a objection. Please ask the question again, and whatever the witness says, we're going to move on after this.
Okay. Now, Mr. Broughton, when Pride had the option of locating their wells for the existing Ghost State wells, they chose the third sand and they over the upper Wolf Camp. Is that correct?
It appears to be, yes.
And in this case, where they didn't have the option, there was no choice. The only option they had was to propose an upper Wolf Camp landing zone. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And you testified that going lower is always, let me rephrase, is generally better because the fracks go up. Given that, why did they locate the 401H proposed well only about 100 feet below what Katera is proposing in their Showbiz 301H well, instead of going lower, which you said is the better option, generally speaking?
You mean going lower than the plan for the 401H?
Correct.
This is, I believe, outside the scope. Now he's asking a completely different question that has nothing to do with the Ghost State Bone Spring development that's east of the.
So, Ms. Shaheen, it would have been better if you had objected before before the answer was given. The answer has been heard. I can't undo that. However, Mrs. Zemsky, I did ask you to move on after your other question.
I'm moving on.
Please. So I do sustain the objection,
Thank you.
whatever good that does at this point.
I may be done. Let me check. We're going to go to slide C6 of Mr. Weinkauf's in the revised hearing packet.
Okay.
Ms. Shaheen, could you unshare? And just a point of, okay, I'm done.
Okay, Mr. McClure, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yes, I do, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Please.
Thank you. Mr. Balton, just to confirm I'm on the same page, is it your testimony that the beefalo wells are not representative of a wolf camp completion in the proposed unit?
I wouldn't say that. I have not specifically reviewed the beefalo wells.
Okay, so let me ask you the question a different way. Do you think it was appropriate for Katerra to include it in its Exhibit C6 as being comparable to the proposed unit?
That would be really difficult for me to say. I don't know. I couldn't. That's a reservoir engineering question. I couldn't answer that.
I guess with that question answered, thank you, Mr. Balton. Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. I have no further questions for this expert witness.
Thank you.
Ms. Shaheen, is there any redirect or may we excuse this witness?
He may be excused.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, now you wanted to call Mr. Pride.
Yes.
Mr. Pride? Good morning, Mr. Pride. I remind you that you're still under oath.
Yes,
Thank you. Please speak louder because I could barely hear you.
all right.
Okay, thank you. Now, Ms. Shaheen, what exhibits are you trying to get in with this witness?
Sir rebuttal C1, no, sorry, Sir rebuttal 1 and 2.
Wait, 2 is already in.
That was rebuttal C2. And the Sir rebuttal exhibits are 1 and 2.
I think one of them is already been
Oh,
admitted.
you're right,
And
you're
that's
right.
number 2.
Oh, my bad.
I
Okay.
think the only exhibit, Mr. Zimsky, please remind me if I'm right. The only exhibit you've maintained an objection on is Sir Rebuttal 1. Okay, so we already received into evidence rebuttal C2. Is that right, Mr.
Correct.
Zimsky? And Sir Rebuttal 2. Okay, so Ms. Shaheen, with that in mind, what is Sir Rebuttal 1 and what is it rebutting that was a surprise to you?
Sir rebuttal 1 rebuts Mr. Weinkauf's testimony in rebuttal exhibits 2 and 3, I believe, where he talks about Pride's performance.
Where he talks about Pride's performance.
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Zimsky, why is that not proper, Sir Rebuttal?
Well, as far as Pride's performance, it is relative in that, and these are the,
Should I share?
No, please.
Not yet. Okay.
well, because the two rebuttal exhibits of Mr. Weinkauf
Mhm.
are focused on the first and second bone spring and only talk about They were in rebutting Mr. Pride's testimony that they weren't economically feasible, casting doubt on whether Katerra was even going to drill those.
Okay.
And so this is showing Pride's performance in the Bone Spring, the third Bone Spring, comparing it to some of Katerra's vintage wells in the third Bone Spring. In exhibits, the rebuttal exhibits of Mr. Weinkauf rebutting Mr. Pride were just focused on the first and second Bone Spring. This is the third Bone Spring, not even remotely relevant to his testimony.
Well,
Okay.
that's a very different objection. Ms. Shaheen, why are these relevant, first of all?
Okay, I may have misspoken, but this is in rebuttal to Mr. Weinkauf's testimony that Pride's, and it may be in his Exhibit C, maybe it's paragraph 9.
Let me ask you it this way. Who
Yes.
created this rebuttal exhibit?
Mr. Pride.
Mr. Pride. Mr. Pride, we have you here. Mr.
Yes.
Pride, did you create the rebuttal exhibit 1 and 2?
Yes.
Very good. Number 2 is already in evidence. You don't have to explain to me why rebuttal 1 is relevant. Why did you create? What was the purpose behind creating rebuttal 1?
It was to show the production from Pride Energy's third Bone Spring wells in comparison to the 7 wells that Coterra has produced from the third Bone Spring, which are direct offsets that clearly states that Pride's wells have outproduced Coterra's wells.
Mr. Zimsky.
Well, first of all, he's comparing vintage wells, which we've had tons of discussion about, versus modern completion wells. Apples, oranges, I mean, totally.
Okay.
And our two rebuttal exhibits are talking about the first Bone Spring and the second Bone Spring. Mr. Weinkauf testified that Pride's performance on the third Bone Spring in the Ghost State wells were good. They were just in line with modern projections. If we go back to C6 and look at the plot, you'll see they're plotted out as good wells. We've recognized that Pride, that those are consistent with modern completions.
All right. I'm going to have a conversation. I'm going to have a conversation with the technical examiner machine. I want to find out whether, number 1, he finds this helpful. Number 2, if he finds it relevant. And number 3, I'll talk to him about the legal distinction between what you're rebutting, et cetera, et cetera. So let's take a 10-minute break to give me time to talk to Mr. McClure and make a decision about rebuttal 1. And Mr. Pride, please be prepared to testify. I may exclude rebuttal 1, I may not. But please be prepared to testify about rebuttal C2, is it? C2 and rebuttal 2?
Yes.
Very good. That's why you're calling him, is it not?
Yes, and I just have to say that I may have misspoken about what specific testimony of Mr. Weinkauf's this is rebutting. But my understanding is that
Well, I just asked the witness and he told me why he created the document.
right, and I think there's specific testimony. I just didn't pinpoint it
Oh,
correctly.
okay.
That's my point.
Oh, okay. Well, I understand. Thank you.
Thank
We're off
you.
the record for 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay, very good. So we're back on the record. We're considering the admissibility of Sir Rebuttal 1. It is the only exhibit in all of the Pride exhibits that has not been admitted. It is objected to by counsel for Coterra, and I'm excluding Sir Rebuttal 1 because I don't find that it's relevant. I'm having a problem with the fact that it compares what Mr. Zimsky said was apples to oranges, and I agree that that comparing vintage wells to modern wells is not a reliable and helpful comparison for the division. I believe, Ms. Shaheen, that you're using it to show that Pride is a prudent operator. Is that correct?
I believe we're showing it, and it may be better to ask Mr. Pride, and perhaps you would allow his testimony on it without the exhibit. But we're seeking to rebut Pride's, Coterra's testimony that Pride's wells are not profitable.
Okay.
And I believe we're entitled to rebut that. And if he needs to explain what the basis of his rebuttal testimony is, that would be great.
Okay, so you're using it to show that Pride's wells are profitable. And what exhibit did Coterra submit that surprised you into that argument?
And I apologize. I misidentified
Okay.
the evidence that Coterra has offered in this regard. And I could do a quick search in their exhibits for profit and see if I could find it. But I do recall, and I don't know if anyone else recalls, that there was testimony by Coterra relating to the profitability of Pride's Bone Spring wells.
All right, let me ask the hearing the technical examiner a question. Mr. McClure, you heard what Ms. Shaheen and I were just discussing. Did you hear testimony putting in doubt the fact that Pride's wells are profitable?
I don't remember that testimony ever being on record.
And I don't remember it either, Machine. That's why I'm asking the technical examiner. Mr. Zimsky, did you submit any exhibits where you are trying to assert that Pride's wells are not profitable?
No, we said that Third Bone Spring are performing as expected, but we did say the first Bone Spring well was underperforming, but we didn't say whether it's profitable or not.
All right. Okay, that's good enough for me. Machine, you don't have to look any further. I'm not going to waste more time on this. I've made a ruling and I stand behind my ruling that Sir Rebuttal 1 is not relevant to today's proceedings. Now, Mr. Pride has been recalled to testify. Is it about C2, your rebuttal C2?
That is correct.
Good. And now Sir Rebuttal 2 was already testified by Mr. Broughton. Is that right?
That is correct.
Great. So go right ahead with Mr. Pride, please. And Mr. Zimsky, can you or your assistant pull up C2 so we can look at it? So Ms. Shaheen can focus on her questions.
I'm pulling it up.
Oh, you're pulling it up?
You mean our rebuttal?
Yes.
Exhibit C2?
You have it ready? I didn't know if you had it.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for here. Okay. Mr. Pride.
Yes.
Taking a look here, this is the filed rebuttal exhibit 2. And turning to the substantive nature of it. Can you explain to the hearing examiners the significance of this exhibit?
Yes, this is exhibit shows what the Go State Com facility, the actual cost for all of the wells that which we drilled 6 wells that facility services. So it shows a total facility cost of $3,322,825. So if you take that total amount and divide it by 7, we've got 6 existing wells on that facility. And when we drill the Gold State 401H, that'll be 7. So we divide that total cost by 7, which will give you $474,689 as to what will be the allocated cost of the facility to the Gold State 401H.
And how does that compare to the facility costs that Coterra is assigning to its well?
Coterra's facility cost, and this is according to the testimony by Coterra's facility engineer yesterday, he said it was going to cost $7 million for the 3 wells, the first and second Bone Spring that would drill, and for the third well, which would be in the third Bone Spring, which comes out to be $2,333,333. Taking the difference between our 475,000 or so and their 2.3 million, Coterra will have $1.858 million more in facility costs than Pride. So the working interest owners essentially would save $1.85 million if they did not go with the Coterra.
Now,
I feel like that's it. The Coterra's cost for facilities is excessive and wasteful. You know, we try to prevent waste in every way we can, and that's what the difference is $1.8 million.
turning to a different subject, you've heard testimony from Coterra's witnesses about asking why Pride drilled the third Bone Spring in its adjacent development as opposed to drilling in a Wolf Camp, in the Wolf Camp A. Do you recall testimony in that regard and questions in that regard?
Yes.
And Mr. Broughton wasn't involved with that development, was he?
No, he wasn't.
Can you explain to the division and the hearing examiners why Go State drilled the third Bone Spring in that adjacent development?
Pride Energy drilled 6 wells just in the east half of the west half of Section 13 as one drilling spacing unit, and also in the west half of the east half of Section 13. So there was 2 first Bone Spring wells, 2 second Bone Spring wells, and 2 third Bone Spring wells. So it was a Bone Spring prospect. It never was a Wolf Camp prospect back when we drilled it approximately 5 years ago.
And is it true that there is no wolf bone pool in that area currently?
That's correct. It is not a wolf bone pool in either one of those drilling space units. The only wolf bone pool that's been established is in the drilling space unit, which is the subject of today's hearing.
And were those developments proposed as for pooling the entire Bone Spring in each of those developments?
In each of those developments, yeah, it was the entire Bone Spring, which we own 100% in.
Thank you, Mr. Pride. I have no further questions at this time.
Mr. Zimsky?
So good afternoon, Mr. Pride. Excuse me. Good afternoon or good morning, Mr. Pride. Bill Zimsky again. I have a question about this exhibit that's on the screen right now. Were these costs included in the AFE that you presented within your direct testimony?
Yes, actually, in the AFE there was additional cost, but this $474,000 was included in the total cost on the AFE for the facilities.
And the facility's been built, correct?
Oh, yes.
And it has a tanked battery, correct?
Yes.
Do you think it's wasteful to spend more money on a tankless battery in order to reduce emissions and be more environmentally sound, and incur that extra cost, do you consider that waste?
Well, I don't think that all the extra cost is necessary where we don't have environmental issues or problems with our facility. So I do think it's waste by spending all that extra money is all the working interest owners are going to be having to foot the bill for an extra 1.8 million when it's not necessary.
And so you're saying it's better to have a tanked facility that will result in more emissions vis-a-vis a tankless battery?
What I'm saying, I don't think that Coterra's facility would be any better than our facility. And our facility has been working fine without any problems.
But you heard the testimony of Mr. Boyle yesterday, correct?
Yes.
And you're claiming you don't have any environmental issues, but you may not have any environmental issues where you're running afoul of any regulatory agency. But wouldn't you agree that the more you can reduce emissions and have spill mitigation is better than just being within compliance of the rules? Isn't it better to do a better environmental stewardship?
We have all that in place. The question is, at what cost are they adding all these other things? We already have that in place at our facility.
Did you submit any evidence about the emissions and flaring of your facility as Coterra did?
No.
Give me one moment. No further questions.
Mr. McClure?
No questions for this expert witness, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Ms. Shaheen, may this witness be excused?
Yes, he may.
Thank you, Mr. Pride.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, does that conclude your rebuttal case?
Yes, it does.
All right, thank you. Mr. Zimsky?
No, we have resting our case pending closings.
Perfect. Mr. McClure, do you have any further do you need the record to stay open for additional information?
Yes, I do, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Okay, let me
Additionally,
get my pen out. Hold on, Mr. McClure. Okay, so I think you want documents in evidence from both parties, don't you?
that is correct.
Okay, let's start out with Coterra. Let's tell Coterra what you still want.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, prior to generating a list, did we want to come back to Ms. Shaheen in regards to the notice having the wrong case number?
Okay, we can do that. Thank you, Mr. McClure. Ms. Shaheen.
Thank you. I did take a look at the entries of appearance in case number in the Coterra case, 25564, which was inadvertently included in our notice. My reasoning was if it was noticed at 25564, then whoever was interested in the the case that was described in that case number would have entered an appearance in 25564. And the only folks who entered an appearance in 25564 are the same ones that entered an appearance in 25562. So I think we're covered.
Okay.
If you, hopefully you're in agreement, but I'm happy to make any,
Okay. Thank you.
do
Mr.
whatever's
Zimsky?
necessary.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but I have a general question about giving notice to overriding royalty interest owners, which we do as a matter of course.
Mhm.
Should we continue to do that? Because they don't, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if they have standing to,
Right. I
you
understand.
know, and we had that little snafu with Pegasus where
Mhm.
I don't know if you noticed that we said, oh, you know, we haven't sent them, and I contacted them and we got a waiver, but it just seems, and we have other cases where we have 100 overriding, you know, so it's expensive.
Right. Mr. McClure?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, we'd have to go back and look at rules specifically, you know, that 1915 for,
Mhm.
I don't remember which
12.
one it is.
12.
But, oh, yeah, I think that's right, like 12.1 or I mean 12A or something like that. Anyway,
Right.
my thought process to that is if the operator's requesting the division to force pull them, then clearly they would require notice.
Mr. Zimsky?
Well, we're force pulling the lessee, and the overriding royalty interest owner has no executory authority to object. They wouldn't have standing to enter appearance. They wouldn't have standing to challenge the pooling. I mean, that's up to the lessee.
So why are you asking the division to force pool overriding interests?
Well, because that's been the tradition
Yeah,
to
I
do
knew
it.
that,
It
yeah.
just seems, this is maybe outside the scope of this, but just as a general policy, I would request that the division give guidance on that. But if Mr. McClure says we got to do the notice them, then we will. It's just, to me, it just never makes sense.
Well, the rule specifically says, and I'm doing this by memory, but it says anyone that you are asking the division to force pool, no, anyone who owns an interest that is not voluntarily committed. And it seems to me an overriding interest would be voluntarily committed. Or is that not right?
Mr. Hearing
What?
Examiner.
Yes. Are you looking at the rule?
I believe, I mean, I don't have it directly in front of
Okay.
me, but I believe it says that, or if they're not covered under a pooling clause, something along those lines.
Or that's right. It
And
does
I
say.
believe that's the argument that the attorneys have been using to say we want to force pool these persons because I'm assuming they're saying that they're not covered under a pooling clause. Now, hypothetically, if the operator's saying they are covered under the pooling clause, then I don't know why they've been asking the division to force pool. But I still think it's pretty clear that if they're going to ask the division to force pool, then,
Give them notice.
you know, yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. So this is outside the scope. I did see your hand, Ms. Vance. I don't really want to go down this rabbit hole right now because we have actually discussed this as a group about 6 months ago. And we came up with an answer. I don't remember what it was, and I don't remember my mind is on this hearing right now. So thanks for the question, Mr. Zimsky, but I can't give you an answer right now.
And I understand that. And I wasn't really, I just wanted to raise that issue as a general matter.
Okay. But we're back to the notice issue in these two cases. And I think we all agree that the notice is sufficient because anyone who would have gone to 6.4 would have seen the filings in 6.2. They're linked together. So I don't see that as an issue. Okay. So Mr. McClure, now are you ready to give the parties a list of the documents you want?
Yes, I am, Mr. Hearing Examiner, and I apologize for the sidetrack there. I just was going to want notice documents if we were conducting
Right.
new notice. Was
I
the
understand.
only thing I was getting at.
Could we start with Coterra?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just bringing up their exhibit packet so I can be very specific on the CPAC.
While you're doing that, Mr. Court Reporter, everything that has been submitted has been admitted into evidence with the exception of Pride Surrebuttal 1.
Okay.
Okay, we are going to have the parties submit new amended exhibit packets with cover letters because Mr. McClure is asking for additional information. And then we had these piecemeal submissions over the last couple of days at the last minute here and there by email. So we're going to clean this record up completely at this time. So Ms. Shaheen and Mr. Zimsky, I want you both to understand that we are requiring you to file an amended exhibit packet. Maybe it's the first, maybe it's the second, I don't know, with a cover letter reflecting the changes that Mr. McClure is asking for now, and to have an index with the exhibit numbers all clearly marked in the submission.
Yes, and by cover letter, you mean like we had submitted our, a caption saying this is the
No, a
revised.
cover letter in this case, because it's an amended exhibit. Why are you filing this amended
Yes.
exhibit as opposed to what you've already filed before?
Understood.
Have there been additions along the road? Did Mr. McClure ask for things that need to be amended or supplemented? That's the cover letter.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Shaheen, you understand that too, right? Okay, I thought you did. Okay, so go ahead, Mr. McClure. Mr. Zimsky's waiting for your list.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Mr. Zimsky, can you bring up your CPAC? Is it in front of you right now? The compulsory pooling administrative checklist. And please, if you have any questions at all or any concerns about any of these requests, please be very clear as here now, because we're not going to be giving the applicants an additional bite at the apple. So you need to get it right this time around.
Okay.
Okay, where you have, do you see where it says formation names or vertical extent?
Yes.
Should be on the first page. It
Yes.
appears that you have like your vertical extent and your formation name duplicated across there. You see where I'm referring to?
No. No, I do not.
Okay, do you see the first field that says formation names or vertical extent? And then
Yes.
for that field, you have the wolf bone pool measured from top, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. And then two rows down, we repeat that information.
Okay, yes. What I would like you to do is for the top entry, the one under formation names, get rid of the vertical extent and just put in there the wolf bone. Either say the wolf bone or you can say the third bone spring and the wolf camp A if you'd like. But regardless, we don't need all this vertical extent there if you can just limit it to the name.
Understood.
And then keep where you have this, where you have pulling this vertical extent, keep what you have there though.
Okay.
And then for your landman exhibits, if we can, if you can provide a table or amend one of your existing tables just to give us a clear list of who Katerra is asking the division to force pull in this case.
Yes. So like another exhibit, I guess it'd be A6 list of parties that we're seeking to pull, which I guess would include the overriding royalty interest owners.
I mean, that's probably the cleanest way is just to add a new, I don't know if it's A6, but whatever your next one is. And yeah, if Katerra is asking to force pull the overrides, then yeah, you need to include them.
And how about work, these are all New Mexico state oil and gas leases. Should we list the record title owners? I guess there's some duplication. I think maybe all of them are. I don't think anybody owns bare record title here, but I'll just include them.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Katerra is asking the division to force pull them, Just make sure that that person is listed in that table.
Copy.
Okay, then I have a slight cleanup on your statement, actually, your self-affirmed statement.
Exhibit E.
I'm getting to it. Yes, sir, Mr. Zimsky. The Exhibit E. On here, you specifically state, let me see if I can find so I can see where we're looking. Yeah, it's in like your first paragraph, like 5 lines down from, well, 3 lines down in paragraph 1, where it says to each of the uncommitted interest owners sought to be pulled in this proceeding. Is that an accurate statement or not? Because the requirement under rule is not that. The requirement under rule would drop off the last part of that, where you say sought to be pulled in this proceeding. That part of it would be dropped off.
So take out sought to be pulled in this proceeding.
Yeah, I mean, well, just make a statement that is, I believe, based off of your landman's testimony, that the list that they had provided to your law firm included everyone. Was kind of my understanding. So whatever you think is the most appropriate language there. I was just calling out that rule does not limit it to only the persons being pulled.
So to each interest owner.
I mean, if that's an accurate statement, and based off my understanding from the landman, I believe that's the case. But I mean, I guess it's your self-affirmed statement, obviously.
Okay, I do understand that.
Okay, and then a supplemental exhibit or a amended self-affirmed statement from your reservoir engineer in regards to the written criteria that was, or a more complete list of the criteria used to evaluate which wells to include in that plot on the left-hand side of C6. As I believe your reservoir engineer understood what I was asking for, but we definitely want to make sure that's the case if you have any doubts.
Yeah, I believe he said, Mr. Weinkoff, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
And do you need any further clarification of what Examiner McClure is asking for?
No, I fundamentally understand to give color on the criteria of why those particular wells are included. I might have some questions for you on exactly the structure or title
Okay.
forms that go in that, but I think I'm clear on what's required.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Zimsky. I have nothing further for Kater. Would you like me to move on to?
Well,
Oh,
if I could, this, I guess, more for the hearing examiner, this revised package. So like for Mr. Weinkoff, I would take out what we have and just replace it. Same with mine.
Mhm.
And then I would add the exhibit A6. Okay.
And then what we're
And
going to do
at-
is we're going to put a time deadline on these, and you're going to share them with opposing counsel, get their take on it. And if there's no objection to it, then you can file it.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. And Mr. Zimsky, I'd like you to think how much time you need to do this while we're dealing with Ms. Shaheen's evidentiary record. Go ahead, Mr. McClure. Ms. Shaheen, you want to turn your microphone on? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Ms. Shaheen, you heard my direction or my guidance for Mr. Zimsky in regards to ensuring that we get all these corrections correct, because we're not going to get another chance at it.
I did hear that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shaheen. Do you have your CPAC in front of you?
I do.
Okay, do you see in the upper portion where there's like a case entry to include the case number?
Oh, yes.
If we can include that. And then on a, if we can scroll down and look at like where your formation names or vertical extent is,
Yes.
if we can change that to be Wolf Bone or Third Bone Spring and Wolf Camp A, something along those lines.
Yes.
And then what you currently have listed there, if you can put that down into your vertical extent entry.
Yes.
Okay, then if we move down a little further where you have your setback rules and you have NA,
Yes.
if we can correct that to, well, you can say statewide, or you can go into the more detail and be 100 and 330, whatever you think, whatever you'd like to do in regards to that.
Okay.
Okay, then if you look at your well number 1, for your last take point, you see where it says section 19 there?
Yes.
If we can correct that to be the correct section, I believe it's 12.
Will do.
Okay, then also on your special provisions / stipulations, it appears that it's cut off. Do you
Oh, it
see where I'm
sure does.
referring to? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, in any order that gets issued, we'll draft specific ordering paragraphs. I don't know if you need it, but I don't know as the division has, you know, an opinion on whether you include this in there or not. But if you are going to include it, if we can, you know, make sure it's got the complete language, I guess.
I understand. I put that there. I thought it would be helpful, in light of the depth severance, that it might be helpful for the division. And it will be obviously up to you whether it's included in the order.
Then if we can look at your, I guess we don't need to look at it, but in the landman statement, the last take point error is also replicated there. I believe it's in paragraph 6 of the landman statement.
Okay.
But if we can just correct the landman statement to have the correct section for the last take point.
Got it.
And then the current C1, the current form C102 that's attached, it is of the old form rather than the new form. So if we can amend that to include, well, the new form C102 rather than the older one.
Will do.
Then I believe that's everything that I have for Pride. Thank you, Ms. Shaheen. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Hearing Examiner.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's talk about the deadline for this submission that we're asking for the evidence. I was thinking that 1 week should be plenty of time to do this. Do the parties have a feedback on that?
1 week is sufficient time.
Machine?
It just depends on what my calendar looks like. If we get the transcripts back, and today is the,
Now, hold on, Machine. I wasn't talking about closing argument.
oh,
I was talking about the list, Mr. We're talking about the amended exhibit packet.
Oh,
That's all
okay.
we're talking about.
okay. 1 week is fine.
Fine, okay.
1 week.
So today is the 28th. Let's see, 1 week from today will be the 4th, Wednesday, the 4th at 5 p.m. Wednesday, the 4th of February, 5 p.m. deadline for amended exhibit packets with cover letter.
And Ms. Shaheen will try to get you our everything, you know, on Monday or Tuesday, just so you have, you know, hopefully Monday.
That sounds good. Thank you.
And
I'll
you'll
try to do
the-
the same.
You'll do the same.
Yes.
That's perfect. Great. Okay, if for some reason the parties need more time, they can file a motion. I'll consider it, but we are giving the parties this chance to clean up their own evidentiary record, which we don't always do. So I would suggest sticking within that deadline. Okay. Second, now we're talking about closing arguments, 15 pages, all cited to the record for any argument you make. We were talking about 2 weeks from today for the hearing, for the verbatim transcript. That would be the 11th. How much time after the 11th do the parties want? Ms. Shaheen, I'm going to start with you.
2 weeks.
Mr. Zimsky, 2 weeks?
2 weeks is fine.
Good for you? All right. So then we're saying the 25th of February.
And that's presuming we get the transcripts on the 11th.
Of course it is, yes.
Yeah,
Of course.
2 weeks from the time we get the transcripts. Or,
Well, we're going to say the
Or-
25th of February. If there's a problem with the transcript, someone let us know.
okay,
We'll adjust that time accordingly.
great. Thank you.
Yes, of course. And that's 5 p.m. also. The caption page does not count toward the 15-page limit, nor does the certification page. All right. I believe we're at the end of the formal hearing. Ms. Shaheen, is there anything else?
Not that comes to mind.
All right,
Thank you very
excellent.
much.
Excellent. Mr. Zimsky?
No, nothing further from Katera.
Okay. Mr. McClure, is there anything further?
Nothing for me, Mr. Examiner.
All right, then we are off the record. Thank you, Mr. Court Reporter. Freya, appreciate your help.
Thank you.